Tommy Anderson was 5 years old when he stopped being a normal kid. That was the day the doctor said the word that changes everything: cancer, acute lymphoblastic leukemia, the kind with long treatment, harsh chemicals, and uncertain outcomes. His hair fell out by month 2. His energy disappeared by month 3. By month 4, his world had shrunk to a single room, a hospital bed in the living room, and a window that faced the street. But every Tuesday morning at 7:15 a.m., Tommy had something to look forward to: the garbage truck. Big, green, loud, and driven by a man Tommy had never met but felt he knew. The driver always wore a bright orange vest and a baseball cap, and every single Tuesday for 6 months, when the truck passed Tommy's house, the driver looked up at the window and waved. Tommy waved back. That was it. No words, no names, just two people acknowledging each other's existence for 3 seconds before the world moved on. Tommy's mother, Sarah, noticed the ritual by week 3. She watched her son drag himself to the window every Tuesday, despite the pain, despite the exhaustion, despite the nausea from chemotherapy. The wave from the garbage truck driver became the highlight of Tommy's week. More than cartoons, more than toys, more than anything else in his shrinking world. Sarah had tried to thank the driver once. She'd run outside in her bathrobe one Tuesday morning, waving frantically, trying to catch his attention. But the truck was already moving, the schedule tight, the driver unaware of how much that simple wave meant to the small bald boy in the window. Sarah gave up trying to explain. Some things, she thought, don't need explanation. Some kindnesses exist without acknowledgement. By month 6, Tommy's condition worsened. The treatments weren't working as well as doctors hoped. The smiles came less frequently. The energy drained faster. Sarah noticed her son sleeping through more of the day, waking only for meals and medication. But every Monday night, Tommy would ask the same question. "Tomorrow's Tuesday, right, Mom?" And Sarah would nod, fighting back tears, knowing that the garbage truck wave was sometimes the only thing that made her son smile anymore. Then came the Tuesday that changed everything. It was late October. The leaves had turned orange and yellow, matching the vest of the garbage truck driver. Tommy was particularly weak that morning. Sarah had to help him to the window, propping him up with pillows so he could see outside. The truck was running late. 7:20, 7:25. Tommy's eyes kept closing, fighting to stay awake. At 7:30, the familiar rumble of the truck engine echoed down the street. Tommy's eyes opened. He pressed his small hand against the cold glass. The truck approached, slowed, and then it stopped, right in front of their house. Sarah's heart dropped. Had something happened? Was there a problem? The driver's door opened. Out stepped the man in the orange vest, the baseball cap pulled low. He looked up at the window, saw Tommy, and smiled. Then he did something Sarah had never expected. He walked toward their front door. Sarah rushed to answer. Standing on her doorstep was Mike Rodriguez, garbage truck driver for the city's sanitation department for 23 years. He was in his early 50s, weathered face, calloused hands, and eyes that had seen 1,000 streets but remembered one small boy in one particular window. "Ma'am," Mike said, his voice rough but gentle, "I'm sorry to bother you. I know this is unusual, but I've been waving at your son for months now, and today I felt like I needed to stop. Is he okay?" Sarah's composure shattered. Tears streamed down her face as she tried to speak, tried to explain, tried to put into words what those waves had meant to her dying child. Mike listened. He didn't interrupt. He didn't offer empty platitudes. He just listened. When Sarah finally finished, Mike nodded slowly. "Ma'am, would it be okay if I said hello? Properly, I mean." Sarah led Mike inside. Tommy was still at the window, confused why the truck had stopped. When he saw the driver walk into his living room, the boy's eyes went wide. This was the man, the Tuesday wave man. In his house. Real. "Hey, buddy," Mike said, kneeling down to Tommy's level. "I'm Mike. I drive the garbage truck. I've been waving at you for a while now." Tommy's voice was barely a whisper. I waved back. I know you do, kid. Best part of my Tuesday. Mike reached into his pocket and pulled out something small wrapped in newspaper. He handed it to Tommy. Inside was a tiny toy garbage truck, worn and old, paint chipped on the edges. This was my son's, Mike said quietly. He used to love garbage trucks when he was your age. He's grown now, works in computers, doesn't care much about trucks anymore. But I kept this. Figured maybe you'd like it. Tommy held the toy like it was made of gold. Sarah covered her mouth, trying not to sob. Mike stood up, tipped his cap, and turned to leave. But Sarah stopped him. Wait. Would you mind if Tommy sat in the truck? Just for a minute? Mike's face softened. Ma'am, I'd be honored. They went outside. Sarah carried Tommy, blanket wrapped around his frail body. Mike opened the passenger door of the garbage truck and lifted Tommy into the driver's seat. The boy's face lit up in a way Sarah hadn't seen in months. Mike showed him the buttons, the levers, the CB radio. He let Tommy honk the horn, once, twice, 3 times. Neighbors looked out their windows, confused. But Sarah didn't care. For 5 minutes, her son wasn't a cancer patient. He was just a 5-year-old boy sitting in the coolest truck in the world. When it was time to go back inside, Mike carried Tommy to the front door. He looked at Sarah and said something she would never forget. Ma'am, I don't know what's going to happen. But I want you to know. I'll keep waving, every Tuesday. As long as he's at that window, I'll wave. Tommy lived for 4 more months. Every Tuesday, Mike waved. Sometimes Tommy was strong enough to wave back. Sometimes Sarah had to hold his hand up for him. But Mike never missed a Tuesday. Not once. On the last Tuesday of Tommy's life, he was too weak to get to the window. Mike noticed. The next day, Mike showed up at the house with flowers. He'd taken a personal day. He sat with Tommy for an hour, talking about garbage trucks, about the city, about nothing and everything. Tommy fell asleep mid-conversation, a small smile on his face. 3 days later, Tommy passed away peacefully in his sleep. At the funeral, Sarah was surprised to see Mike Rodriguez standing in the back row, still wearing his orange vest, cap in his hands. After the service, he approached Sarah. I'm so sorry, he said. Thank you, Sarah replied, for the waves, for stopping, for seeing him. Mike nodded, tears in his eyes. He saw me too, ma'am. Not many people do. Years later, Sarah started a foundation called Tuesday Waves to honor everyday workers, garbage collectors, janitors, postal workers who show up consistently, often invisibly, but whose presence matters more than anyone realizes. The foundation gives grants to workers who go beyond their job descriptions to connect with their communities. At the first award ceremony, Mike Rodriguez was the inaugural recipient. When asked why he stopped that day, Mike said something simple but profound. Because waving back isn't enough. Sometimes you have to stop the truck and show up. Tommy's story spread. People started waving at garbage truck drivers, thanking postal workers, acknowledging janitors, small gestures, simple acts. But to the people receiving them, it meant the world. Because being seen, truly seen, is one of the most powerful gifts we can give another human being. And sometimes, the person doing the seeing is a 5-year-old boy in a window. And sometimes, the person being seen is a garbage truck driver who chose to stop. The world kept turning. Tuesdays kept coming. But on one particular street in one particular town, people remembered. They remembered the boy who found joy in a wave. They remembered the driver who stopped his truck. They remembered that heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they wear work gloves. Sometimes they drive garbage trucks. Sometimes they're just people who show up every Tuesday without fail. Because someone is watching and that someone matters. End. If this story reminds you to see the invisible people around you, to appreciate the workers who keep your world running, to remember that small gestures can save someone's darkest day, then subscribe. We tell stories that make you feel, make you think, and remind you of what it means to be human. Thank you for watching. And remember, you never know whose Tuesday morning you'll be.